in the middle of all of this, in the middle of all the Trae Young drama, Bill Simmons on his podcast says, people on Twitter, we're not very pleased with this.
7
Bill
years,
Simmons on his
right? So I'm
podcast.
going to give you the list. Luka doesn't count. I'll just ask you one guy at a time. Would you take the guy over Trae? Devin Booker,
Yes.
John Morant,
Yes and yes, easily, right?
Yes.
Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yes.
Well, you guys know me, obviously. Yeah, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander.
All right. I have those three as well.
When's this going to get hard?
Anthony Edwards.
Anthony.
I got to stop you right there. Don't know if I would say yes to that. Here's my dilemma with this exact conversation. And I talked about this with NBA University when I went in his podcast. Whenever you do, because we did something very similar to this, who would you pick over Trae Young? Or it was SGA, who like SGA's better than, and Trae Young was one of them. And I said no at the time. This was like before the season started, or right as the season was starting. The thing is, if you conclude, okay, Trae Young cannot be the number one on a championship team. He just can't. He has to be a number two. If that's your line of thinking, then I can maybe start to see, okay, well, I don't think Anthony Edwards is a number one either, but could he be a better number two than Trae Young? That's where you have to get at. And that's why at this point in time, I'd say 100% yes. I'm taking Shea Gilgeous-Alexander over Trae Young. No doubt about that. Why? Because is Trae Young, like if I had to just build an offense around a player, is Trae Young the better player, the better piece to have than Shea? Sure. I would say so right now, even though Shea's amazing. But I don't really think either of them can be number ones on championship teams. But I think Shea could be the better number two. Does that make sense? Like, he doesn't really need the ball in his hands. Great off-ball player. Great on-ball player, obviously. And he has size. He can defend multiple different positions. So I'd rather have Shea than Trae. Does that make sense? Anthony Edwards, I don't know if I can get there. And I've been such an Anthony Edwards guy, but sometimes it's just so frustrating with him. And Trae just led the league in total points and assists. Like, I know things are down bad for him. But, man.
The Edwards.
All right, there's 4. Tyrese Halliburton.
See, this is where things get ridiculous. Tyrese Halliburton. Anthony Edwards has definitely reached that level where the idea of Anthony Edwards does not really match reality yet. He's still there. Tyrese Halliburton is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But don't some of the same issues plague Tyrese Halliburton? Like, it's not like he's that great of a defender. And he's definitely not the scorer Trae is. And Trae is also a phenomenal playmaker. So I think I would take Trae over Tyrese Halliburton, even though Tyrese is awesome.
Take Tyrese. I think people love playing with him. And there's also an element, too, that we haven't. I mean, Trae's going to hurt you defensively.
And he's expensive, too. All right, so there's 5. I have the same 5. Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, so it's weird. Okay, Donovan Mitchell, yes. Like, Donovan Mitchell is the top 10 player in the league so far this season. So, yes, obviously, Donovan Mitchell is a yes. Young is the worst defender in the league, though. Yeah, but it's not like Tyrese Halliburton is a good defender either. He's pretty bad as well. And, like, Trae is a better offensive player, I would say. I don't want to go too, like, we don't want to get too jaded by the first 20 games of the season.
Mitchell.
There's 6.
Throw Garland in there, too.
Oh, I'm getting those guys.
I'd rather
Desmond,
have Garland.
Oh, I was going to give you Desmond Bane, Anthony Simons, and Darius Garland.
All right, this is where the conversation goes off the fucking rails. Desmond Bane over Trae? Like, no, come on. You're going a little too far. Again, I tweeted this. If we just look at it from the perspective of, okay, Trae can't be a number one on a championship team. He has to be a number two, so I have to put him alongside another superstar level player to win. Okay? Would you rather have Trae being your number 2 guy or Desmond Bane? I don't know. Like, think about this from the Mavs perspective. If you had to pick one to put alongside Luka, if you want to win right now, would it be Trae or would it be Desmond Bane? You would actually have to think about that. And that sounds fucking insane because obviously Trae's a better player than Desmond Bane through and through. No doubt about that. But when you look at it through that lens, where it's like, okay, well, I know I don't think Trae can be the number 1 on a championship team. So do I put Desmond Bane next to Trae or do I put Trae next to Desmond Bane? I don't know. That's a tough one. Trae into discussion. See, Trae's definitely a better player. I don't even think that's a conversation. Number 2, Desmond Bane, but Trae's a number 1 on a team. He won't be your number 2. That's true too. Like Desmond Bane, if Desmond Bane's your number 1, you're a terrible team. No offense to Desmond Bane. You are an abysmal team if he's your number 1. You could be a really good team if he's your number 2. Case in point, the Grizzlies. You're a terrible team if he's your number 1. Trae, you could be a good team if Trae's your number 1. We've already seen that. They made the Eastern Conference Finals. I feel like with Trae, that much of a defensive liability in the playoffs, devastating for your team. I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. That's kind of why I'm saying, if you're looking at it through the lens of this guy can't be your best player, you have to have another best player around him. Well, then maybe you consider this. Anthony Simmons, no. I mean, that one is fucking egregious, right? Because if we're just saying fuck defense with Trae, you're also saying fuck defense with Anthony Simmons, and Trae's just better than Anthony Simmons. So that one is just a major no-go. That one's terrible. Darius Garland, well, you got to at least think about it. Darius Garland's really good. Is LaMelo even alive? Nobody talks about LaMelo anymore. LaMelo is out of Charlotte first chance he gets. I know he's been injured and stuff. I know he made the All-Star game last year. But for being such a marketable player, it feels like you literally never, ever hear his name mentioned ever. Like, seriously.
Bane feels like the wrong answer. People are going to freak out. I don't want the leader of my team to be Trae Young. All right? There you go. Done.
So you would take Bane over Trae?
Fuck it. Yeah.
I think
That's
I would
wrong.
too.
It's the wrong answer. But I'm just...
Yeah, it's the wrong answer if you're trying to sell jerseys and have fans. But if we're trying to win a title, I'm not sure it's the wrong answer. Simmons, I think it's at least an argument now, him and Trae. Did you see that 45-point game he had against Utah? I randomly watched that.
There's no way. There's literally no argument for Anthony Simmons over Trae. That's just, you've reached new hating levels. You have reached hating levels that literally are unmatched. Period. Hating levels that have never been reached in the history of the universe. Sally, I need you to address this wild inside the NBA comments on Luka. They are shitting on him. What did they say? Everyone in Charlotte got hurt and Miles did what he did? Yeah, true. I mean, would you rather have Trae or LaMelo? Well, I think both problems are there. Either play defense. I would rather have Trae than LaMelo. Like, I'm just going to be honest. Anthony Simmons, I mean, come on.